In this week's video, I decide to redo an older piece of artwork and I share with you a freezer stencil technique. Also, sometimes art just doesn't come out how you want it to. But before we jump into this week's video, here's a quick introduction in case you're new around here.
Hi there, I'm Stacy, the encaustic mixed media artist behind Studio Stacy. Encaustic literally means to burn in. So I paint with beeswax and a torch, and because it's mixed media, pretty much anything else I can get my hands on. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Consider subscribing and joining this artsy community. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, which helps me get introduced to more like-minded artsy folks like yourself. Morning all. In the studio, as you can see, and I just turned the wax on and I'm kind of in the mood to, I guess, tear something apart, just start over. I don't know, just in the mood to maybe redo some art, maybe completely obliterate that old piece of art. So I'm gonna head up there in the loft area, pull down some pieces of art and see about redoing them today. And I figured while the wax was on, or while the wax was heating up rather, now was a good time to climb up there and see what I got. So yeah, let's see what we can get into today. Alright, so I pulled down some paintings to redo, and the past videos that I've done more recently redoing paintings, I've done some smaller size paintings. So this time I thought, why not pull down some larger ones? And all three of these you can kind of see are very similar. And they all have corrugated cardboard on them. And I'm thinking of completely scrapping this idea, not the corrugated cardboard idea, I don't think, but completely, I don't know, just tearing them down, redoing them completely. And I'll show you some inspiration photos, what I'm thinking of maybe kind of turning them into. I don't know, we'll see where this goes, but yeah, I'll flip the camera on and show you those first. All right, I'm gonna try to keep the glare off of my phone, but these pictures are from Dolly Sods this last October, and these are it's one of my favorite places here in West Virginia and just maybe in general. So these are some pictures from this, and these are kind of what I'm thinking as far as the inspiration perhaps for these paintings. Mainly like something like this with the pine trees kind of in the front perhaps and mountains in the back, like this one. So I don't know, just kind of where I'm at, where I'm thinking. And I was debating on working on all three of these kind of at the same time. But I think what I'm going to do is work on the larger one first and then see how that turns out and then come back to these smaller two. And the smaller two were a set. I sold them as a set, or I was trying to sell them as a set. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them as a set or break them into individual paintings. So we'll see. But anyways, I think I'm going to work on the big one first. So I'm going to put these two smallish ones aside and get the edges taped up on this big one, because that is step number one. All right, now that the edges are taped, I think what I'm gonna do, or not I think, but I know what I'm gonna do is kind of peel off this textured layer of the cardboard. The trees basically is what I'm gonna do. And I got my heat gun out, and even though these trees are really pretty much completely covered with encaustic paint and encaustic medium, I still figured not to get the torch out just because this is, you know, flammable material underneath it. So I'm gonna try to delicately do this with my torch, or my heat gun rather. And I also got out this like metal paint scraper. So see if that might help too. And it's metal on the edge, on the end, so I can kind of heat up this end and it's not like real sharp. You know, I can run my thumb over, and I'm sure you all know what a paint scraper is, but I'm gonna attempt to take these trees off. And I don't know, maybe I'll put you on time lapse for this. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take me, so I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll start a layer not on time lapse and see how that goes. Here we go. All right, well, that took a little bit of convincing, but not as hard as what I kind of thought it might be. Definitely prying underneath that with this metal heated spatula, really paint scraper, really seemed to kind of loosen up all the wax underneath. It was a little bit of an effort, but not horrible. So, and it looks like a bit of a disaster now, but I've got this one layer done. I think what I'm gonna do is melt some more of this wax off, kind of scrape more of it off to get more of a smooth surface to start with, and then go from there. And some of you are probably like, what are you doing to completely destroying your paintings? And, you know, why are you doing this? And I don't know, I just feel that they're not working. So why not start over? And I guess I'm in the mood to start over. So I don't know, I encourage you, if you did a painting, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago, and you feel like now it's just not working. I know I say this every time I redo these paintings, but it's just paint, right? It's just encaustic wax and paint, and of course your time. But if it's your art, and if all of a sudden you feel like, no, I think I don't like this painting anymore, redo it. What have you got to lose, right? So anyways, oh, my battery's flashing at me. Let me change this battery and then we'll get back to painting this, or tearing it apart. All right, that was a lot of wax scraped off and then wax put back on, paint, encaustic paint. When I say wax, I mean encaustic paint. In case you're new around here and wondering, I mean encaustic medium or encaustic paint. At any rate, there was a lot scraped off and a lot put back on. I think it's now very smooth. It's much smoother than what it was. So I think it took about 2 hours, which is, you know, just what it is. So to get kind of not even anywhere. But anyway, I will flip the camera around here and show you. And then I also want to show you one of my favorite tools for scraping, just to smooth the surface out. It takes very, very little bit of encaustic paint or medium off, depending on what you have the last layer on. And it's just a really nice tool. I don't know if they make it in a larger format, but if they did, I think that would also be worth investing in for larger paintings. All right, these are my favorite tools. I have a smaller one and a slightly larger one, but it's just a flat scraper. Sorry about that squeak. It's just a flat scraper, and it's really easy to put even tension on it. And the wax doesn't even really need to be that warm to scrape a layer off, and it just scrapes the tiniest bit off, just getting all of the like little imperfections, the little tiny bumps out of it. and or big bumps depending on how hard you want to push and scrape. But they are two of my favorite tools, and if I can figure out where I got them at, I will make sure I link them down below, or at least try to find the names of them. Let's see, this is, hang on, let me try to zoom in a bit on that handle. I don't think you can read that, and I am not sure what it says, other than made in the USA. I'm not sure what that cursive writing is, but like, I'll try to figure out what both of these tools are and where I got them at. All right, I think I'm gonna call it today in the studio, and I know, like I said, it doesn't look like I got a lot done, but I need to take a break. I'm hungry, very hungry. And yeah, it kind of just brings me to another point, and that is about protecting your creative energy. I know these are, I don't know what the right word is, stressful, frustrating, can at some point in time be negative, also positive times that we live in. It's just a very strange time, and if you're feeling all of the feels, try to protect your creative energy as much as possible. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, taking breaks, eating, sleeping. I know it's not always possible, but I just wanted to kind of remind you all to make sure you're protecting your creative energy as much as possible in these maybe rather stressful times. So anyways, I am going to go do that now, grab a bite for lunch, and then I'll pick you back up. It'll probably be later on in the week when I start back in on this. We have a few things going on over in the pole barn this week, a few appointments and stuff and things like that. So I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but I will definitely pick you back up when I'm working on this again. Hi all, back in the studio, and I've just picked out a few colors of encaustic paint to lay down on this painting. I might just get to the underpainting today. I don't know, we'll see how this goes. But let me flip the camera around and I'll show you the paint colors, and then I'll show you the picture again, just to refresh my memory and y'all's memory on what I'm painting here. All right, here are the paint colors. I have bismuth yellow, bismuth orange, Indian yellow, which is kind of a orangey, more of an orange color than a yellow color, and harvest moon, which is like goldeny kind of yellow color. So, and then I also have sky blue, which is a color that I made using blue pigment and stuff. So those are the colors I'm thinking of for the sky area, which is what I'm going to start with on this painting. All right, and here is the refresher on the reference photo that I'm using. It's not going to look exactly like this by any stretch of the imagination, but that's kind of what I'm going for. So I'm going to work on the sky first and then go from there. All right, I wanted to show you a quick sketch that I did on freezer paper of this painting. And so what I'm thinking of doing is kind of using this as a stencil, if you will. I don't know how well this is going to work out. Sorry about that rustling. I shouldn't talk and do that at the same time. I don't know how well this is going to work out, but we'll see. I only have about a half hour more here in the studio, maybe slightly longer. So I'm going to see if I can't get, this is like that big cloud area. Let's see if I can't get that cut out, use this as a stencil and go from there. We'll see. All right, the stencils, using that word loosely, are cut out, and I pressed them down on the surface with just a metal spoon to get them to stick a bit, and some heat. And I also have this gray color picked out. This was actually a color from one of the drip trays, just a random gray. And so yeah, I think I'll get the heat gun out because I don't want to catch this paper stencil on fire. So I'll get the heat gun out to do these first couple layers, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, I'm sure most of you know how a stencil is used, but I just thought I'd quickly touch a bit on this. And that is, I am brushing away from the stencil. I'm not brushing into it, and I'm just kind of dabbing the paint on. And you'll see coming up here, this also gives it a kind of a fun texture to it, which I didn't want a completely smooth surface on this particular layer. And so, yeah, just thought I would discuss that. And again, through the magic of YouTube TV, and after several layers of that gray bluish color paint, this is done. I'm just heating it up real quickly with the heat gun. Like I said, I don't want to catch this paper on fire. And while it's still warm, not hot, but still warm, this freezer paper stencil peels right away, easily off. And yeah, it really worked out nicely. If you're interested in making up your own stencils, I would highly recommend the freezer paper, especially if you have a heat gun. And then I'm just taking some tweezers and kind of picking off these little pieces, the little tiny pieces, and that worked out pretty well. Some of that, as you can see, the edges lifted up a bit, but it worked out nicely. And then I'm just taking the torch and refusing everything back down just to make sure all the layers are fused together. And there you go.
All right, I think I'm gonna call it here in the studio today, and I will pick you back up hopefully later this week for you all. It'll just be a few seconds. I'm somewhat okay with how this is turning out. I want to add the mountains and stuff and keep going with it, and then determine if the sky's good or not good. But I'll flip the camera around here and show you what it looks like.
All right, video editing, Stacy, coming at you. And while I am not convinced that this painting is any better than where it started from, I am going to let you go here just so this video doesn't get too long. Stay tuned for the next video where hopefully, fingers crossed, I will finish this. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.